S2Ep13 clear takeoff, left hand. Takeoff left, this is speed 1. Left land, swim west, copy. Speed 1. Crossing 21. Crossing at 24 is runway.
Hello and welcome to the Blueskies podcast. I'm PR Ganapathy, your host.
Blueskies 70, roger, report type southeast, connection, speed 54, runway 28, and field still active.
It's my great pleasure today to interview Air Cmde BS Siwach. Air Cmde Siwach was commissioned into the Indian Air Force in June of 1970, and then he retired in 2004 with about 6,500 hours of military aviation to his credit, and then continued flying in the civil sector. He has a total of about 7,000 hours of flying time. He commanded 128 helicopter unit and 112 helicopter unit, and a contingent in Sierra Leone during Op Khukri, which was in the year 2000, something that we're going to spend a fair amount of time chatting about today. He's also a qualified flying instructor with an A2 rating. And so really look forward to this conversation today. But first things first, welcome, sir, to the program. Thank you so much for speaking to me and to the audience of the Blue Skies.
Thank you very much, Ganpati, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to interact with you.
Likewise, sir, likewise. So we start off always by getting to know our guests better. So I'd just love to know where you grew up. What was your motivation to join the service? Did you have any connection, family members? And what was that initial journey like? Did you come through NDA, direct entry? What was your training like? Any memories that you have from that time that you think the audience would like to hear about?
Yeah, it was actually small village background in Haryana, and just got enamored by looking at the aircraft flying in the air, and just you to think that what kind of people who are in these machines so high in the sky. So that was kind of became a craze. Whenever we saw some aircraft flying, we'll just rush out and watch the aircraft. So that got me interested, and then, of course, thereafter we joined the Air Force. I was a direct entry cadet and got commissioned in fighter stream in June 1970. Thereafter, I was posted to 17th Squadron Hasimara, and that was hunters. We were on hunter. The 70th Squadron Hasimara, the serviceability of the aircraft was quite poor, and we had a large number of pilots. So the people who were almost 2-3 years senior to us, they had not flown much. So our flying was quite limited, restricted. So when we were told that we'll send you to fly helicopter because it's a wastage of time, no flying here. So you fly helicopter and then you can come back. We'll call you back. So we joined helicopters, and then, of course, I was first posted in 1 and 2 HU at Bagdogra, then 1 and 5 HU at Tezpur. And from there, I got posted out to 3 Aerope flight, which was in Srinagar. And then I went for my flying instructor's course at Tamram. Got posted to HTS 2 years. Thereafter, 112 HU, and that was at Bagdogra, which moved to Air Force Station Yalanka and became a training establishment on miniature helicopters. So after that, I was posted to Iraq, And Iraq was 2 years tenure, very eventful tenure. Then then I got posted in Air Headquarters Communications Squadron, Delhi, flying president, prime ministers, and vice president, and other VIPs. And from the Com Squadron, then I took over 128 Siachen Tigers helicopter unit. First it was at Chabua, then it moved to Mohanbari. Thereafter I came to 1 and 2 HU again, Air Force Station Yalanka. There, that had now become a training establishment for mate pilots. Uh, we had interesting tenure there. I was the commanding officer. That was the blue group captain just before me. So from Air Force Station Yalanka, then I moved to higher command course with the army in Mau. After completing 1 year there, got posted as director NCC at Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad, I spent about a year, and I was posted to Station Commander Air Force Station Sarsawa. And from Sarsawa, I came back to for 2 3 months to headquarters Western Air Command, looking after the transport and helicopter operations. And then from there, I was selected to head the mission to United Nations. So we had moved a complete, uh, Air Force. It was called Air Force Contingent 2000. So we had moved there with about around 8 helicopters, 4Mi-8 and 4 Chetak. And subsequent to that, we were joined by 4 more this attack helicopters. So over there we were there for almost about a year, just 1 or 2 months short of an year. And I came back and took over as Air Officer Commanding Air Force in Palam. So from Palam, then I went to Headquarters Central Air Command at the A2, looking after the transport and helicopter operation there. And from there I retired. And then I joined civil aviation, flew for ONGC. During that period, I was also the Secretary General Rotary Wing Society of India. And at present, we have an organization which is called Aviation Safety Management Society of India, which is looking after the safety of entire spectrum of aviation operation in the country. And we are doing a lot of good work, which is being appreciated by regulator and all the operators. So now I just give a brief resume. Now you are most welcome to ask any other question.
Yes, it's a really fascinating career. Lots of exciting pieces for me to dive in. So I'd like to, start off with, the service in the Northeast. Which helicopters were you flying? What were the missions like? Any memorable sorties that you'd like to describe? I know typically there's a lot of support for the army. There's a lot of CASEVAC, but it's also quite a difficult flying environment because of weather, because of the terrain, because of lack of navigation aids. So just love you hear your experiences flying in the Northeast.
Absolutely, it was a very, very challenging and, of course, thrilling experience. And we were operating in entire Arunachal Pradesh mainly, and of course, other areas as well, but mainly it was Arunachal Pradesh. and it used to be drop sorties with the help of parachute.
And this was in the Me 8, sir?
This
Was
was
this
a
in the
Me
Me 8?
17.
Me
Yeah, Me
17. Okay.
17. So that is a better version of Me 7, Me 8. From Me 8 to upgrade to Me 17. Me 17 was very powerful, is a very powerful helicopter. And it had definitely much more capable than Me 8. Me 8 was underpowered, but Me 17 had enough power. So there, we had taken part in some of the operations against the Ulfa, landing troops in the close vicinity of where the Ulfa camps were there, and that used to be either in the night or early morning in dark hours, just a very faint light. So that was very challenging. Then from there, we also had gone to Bangladesh during 91. That was, when they had a very severe cyclone, floods, and they were in a very bad condition. So we had taken about three Me 17 helicopters, and our people did a very great job. We had beaten everybody over there as far as the reaching out to the people who were stranded, who needed the relief material and all that. The weather used to be very, very bad. I never come across that kind of weather in India. And it used to be in Bangladesh. Bangladesh had people from all over the world. We had Pakistanis, we had Chinese, we had Americans, and some small other countries. But our performance was really outstanding. And there we were, president of Bangladesh wanted to award a Bangladesh medal for that. Of course, after that, we came back and we didn't follow it up, and it never, we heard about from the Bangladeshis. They must have forgotten about it. So that was then. So it was a very challenging operation. Sometimes some flood relief operation within our own territory, reaching out to our troops very close to the borders, landing there, dropping there. Dropping is a very, very challenging, assignment from the helicopter drop at low levels. And there's a very small dropping zone where you are supposed to release your loading, so otherwise the load will get lost. It will roll down somewhere. So that was a very, very difficult and a very, risky. Because sometimes there have been occasions where parachute get entangled with the tail rotor and the aircraft can meet an accident. Of course, we are very lucky that we didn't have any such problems. I was there for 3 years and we had very accident-free flying, and we are very well known in the command as well as everybody else. The moment they entered Guwahati, they landed Guwahati. People used to remember, as I told you, we used to call shots and tigers, and we used to have wonderful, parties and other functions, and we had really within the available limited resource available, they made our life very, very comfortable, and that unit received a lot of appreciation from command headquarters and everybody. And from there, I was recommended for Wives in a Medal, but that got lost somewhere. So actually, I got my Wives in a Medal when I was flying with the um, 3 flight, and from there, so I,
So tell us about that sortie. So you rescued some mountaineers from the Nunkun peak.
these some engineers there had gone for mountaineering expedition to Nunkun Peak, which is near Kargil, So we got a call that the engineers' casualties are to be evacuated from an altitude of around, I think it was around 15 or 1,000 feet. Density altitude was around, I think, 18,000 feet or so.
What aircraft did the unit have? Chetaks or Cheetahs?
Only Cheetah could go there. Helvet could not go. Helvet could not go there. So in fact, by the time the clearance came and we got the information and we got airborne, it was already in the afternoon. We had never been to that place. It was never part of the route. So somehow we reached and we found we kept on climbing and climbing and went to 20,000 feet. We could not see the casualty, and then you know finally we spotted the casualties there on the slope. Then it's such a almost 30 to 45-degree slope on the mountain side, on the Nunkun Peak side. And these guys actually, the place where we were told to, that they'll be available there, they had moved out. So they are not very hopeful of being rescued. So they had moved out with great difficulty. They had covered some ground, and they had now come to a place which was at a slopey area, 30 to 45-degree slope. All, you can, there's no level ground, all boulders, trees, bushes, and we saw them. Then we assessed the landing conditions, and of course, that Josh was always there. So we said we'll be able to do it. So we went, landed there. When he came very close to ground, we found slope so much that it was very, very almost impossible to land. So then we landed on one skid. Only one skid was touching the ground. Other skid was about 6, 7 feet higher than the ground. And we are holding
My
there.
goodness.
Then we had to get these casualties. It was very difficult to, sort of move them from there. Finally, with great difficulty, the casualties were loaded, but there are, I think, 3 or 4 of them. 4 of them, I think. Yeah. And we could carry only one at that altitude. So we picked up the, most injured casualty, most serious casualty, and then we rushed him to Kargil. And again, because now we had to pick up another 3 guys more, and it was getting late. Evening was getting closer, and we were quite. And then you had to refuel also because the refueling also was required. Of course, refueling uh, took about 15 minutes or so. Then after refueling, again reached there. Those guys were waiting for us. By now we were, quite. Of course, there. Luckily, weather was clear, but winds were very strong. So winds were very strong, and Cheetah being a very small, light helicopter. So, but somehow yes, we managed to pick up one more casualty, and then now 2 were left. So again, he went back, and now it was. We were told the darkness, and now you have to get back. You have to reach Srinagar also. So I said, "Well, yes, sir." But then we said, yeah, let's see. First, we will evacuate these casualties, and then we'll see. So then we again went, and those guys. This time we took both of them, brought both of them, and offloaded them at Kargil. And thereafter, it was almost sunset. Then we said, now how to sort of what to do now. So we decided we'll go to Srinagar. So we took off for Srinagar. Just I think it was around half an hour before sunset. And by the time it's very difficult, in valley, in the hills, sunsets actually you can experience much earlier because there are high hills, hill shadows. So there's a lot of this. You get disorientated, and weather also is quite rough. It was summer months, so it was quite turbulent, quite windy. So finally we reached Srinagar. That was they had made arrangements for those goosenecks for our landing. Uh,
Oh boy.
it was night time. So normally you are not allowed to fly in the hills or valleys, but we had no choice but to fly through the valley and when we reached at Srinagar, so we sat down, and thereafter we set off. Then we saw a lot of people coming toward the helicopter. A lot of people mean there's some senior officers and others. So we got scared. I said, they must have come to arrest us now. Why did you indulge in such unauthorized flying? So when they came, we were quite scared. But then from distance only, we could hear, "Congratulations, very well done, proud of you," and all that. Then we felt very relieved. And thereafter, of course, then there used to be, in Western Air Command. Actually, I was with the army commanding officer. So now this air officer commanding was the air commander that time, M. Singh, so famous guy. So he got a call from, it was in newspapers also, this evacuation was in newspaper also. And this, our engineers also called up AOCNC and told him, your guys have done a wonderful job. And then got a call from there, from the CNC to the air officer commanding KV, you must recommend this boy for some award. So they were there. At the time, I was told, okay, please put up your citation. So we had no clue about citation, etc. But we wrote down whatever was, within our knowledge. And finally, after a year or so, I was awarded a medal as a flight lieutenant. So that was a
Fascinating.
very,
Yeah, the whole operation, according to your citation, took almost 6 hours that you
yeah,
were
it
flying,
was
isn't
quite a
it?
long operation. I mean, it was, I don't remember most of the detail now, it was a long time back.
Visual, visual, before visualize. Just need 70, Roger, report time southeast, Greenwich, for commit wave, and view selected.
No, particularly in helicopter operations, there's a fine balancing act between safety and just pushing the envelope to save people's lives, and that's probably a trade-off that you'll have to do all the time, isn't it?
Absolutely. You see, problem is, now I realize when I look back how much risk we need to take, how much foolish thing we need to do. And I would not recommend those kind of, sort of kind of operations conducted by youngsters. Many people get carried away when they're young blood, and mere fact that they want to save some lives. So that's a major, sort of moral pressure on individuals, and they tend to stretch their, sort of boundaries, and sometimes get into serious accident situation. So that should be a very calculated, planned, risk. In military, you have to take risk, but that is only in operations. During peacetime, flying, a mission can be always done on the other day. Now, one doesn't want to really, go and crash himself trying to evacuate a casualty. So that will not. There have been occasions when people have got crashed during just before evacuation, trying to ease the casualty. There are some pilots who have crashed after picking up the casualty, returning where they got bad, and they got caught in bad weather and crashed, killing the casualty along with them. So that is one aspect people should keep in mind. And okay, military operation is different. You have to there's no question of sort of mission accomplishment comes first. But in peacetime, safety should always be uppermost in the mind.
Right, right. So you were speaking about the flood relief and rescue during flood relief. Now, during flooding times, all your traditional landmarks and whatnot are probably submerged. How can you find where the people that you're supposed to rescue are? What's the method that y'all follow during those times of rescue? I know the Air Force is called out repeatedly for the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations during flooding. But it just, for me as a pilot, it seems really a very tough job. What do you do?
No, it's quite, you're right, absolutely very challenging, very demanding kind of operation. I had conducted twice flood relief operations from Hakempet in Vishakhapatnam and then Ongole and all those areas. So twice we had gone there, and of course, it is very satisfying that you are reaching out to people, providing the succor needed, evacuating casualties, and people are taking the government officials for rescue and relief work. So, but you see, basically, we are told about general area operation. We are briefed by the civil administration, and then sometime we also take somebody along with us so that they can identify those areas if they are familiar with it. But most of the time, they sort of, when they get into the air, they get lost, they get disorientated. From ground, they can tell you, oh, I know it is everything submerged and all that. So there you general area, and then you reach out, you see some where there is some kind of population or submerged houses, population on top, or they also from there also you get lead when you land there, and or you pick up some people, they give the lead that further also things are pretty bad and so many people have lost their dwelling and they are stranded, they are eaten for days, so that kind of thing. Then we of course carry out the surveillance of those areas, and wherever we find people are in dire states, then we reach out to them. So, and of course, bad weather, because this is also flood come when there's a bad weather period also. So weather is a very weather challenge. And then you have to fly low, and because when you're flying low, so obstruction, tall trees, buildings, cables, towers, some you can't see. And then landing, if you land, they're not prepared helipads. You have to land on not even makeshift. Wherever you find some kind of clearing, sometimes you're led to land on the top of the buildings, and maybe sometimes you may not be able to land, so you have to pick up the people while hovering.
Right, with the winch.
Yeah, so winching, not we didn't do much of winching because we had to carry out operation. Winching is a time consuming. Winching is okay for just one or two people who are stranded in some place and you want to take them out. I was also involved in I was the task force commander for Bihar flood relief operation in 2004. So that was also a very major operation. That time, Rabri Dev used to be chief minister of Bihar, and that was also very, it was totally, the areas were very badly affected, totally submerged. People were suffering. We had to evacuate a lot of people. In fact, we had two mishaps also during that time. Uh, but luckily, we were able to salvage those helicopters and fly them off. But yes, because it's very, very difficult, for helicopter, we don't have any kind of, now GPS, etc. come now. But those days, there are no GPS, only thing your map reading, and so many places, because the topography appears quite different when it is summer. Okay, so that was quite a difficult uh, times, but we completed our task in a very efficient, proficient manner. So that was
Now, what is the crew like in the Mi-17? Sir? Do you have a navigator or flight engineer? Or...
captain, co-pilot, and flight engineer and flight gunner. Flight engineer is in the cockpit only, along with the pilots. He is responsible for starting the engine, switching the engine, and keep maintaining close watch on the parameters. Flight gunner looks after the loading, unloading, drops, and other things.
So I want to shift gears to VIP flying. You were
Yeah, VIP
both
flying.
in the
Yes, I
comm
was there
squadron
for.
flying VIPs, as well as you were AOC Palam, under which the comm squadron comes. So just give us a flavor. I think you're the first VIP pilot I've interviewed. And, my father used to keep speaking about how the standards of maintenance, standards of pilots, all of those things, missions, everything is at a completely different level. So give us a flavor for VIP flying. What does it take? What are the, how are the people selected? How are the aircraft maintained? What are the extra precautions we take?
So of course, the pilots, engineers, technicians, navigators, they are all go through a very strict selection process, and not only for their flying skills, but as well their temperaments, and of course there's a security clearance also. So after all this, you get posted there, and then yes, the standards obviously have to be of a very high standard, and standard of maintenance, standard of operations there, because one is everybody is you can say the top gun in top notch pilots. So and top notch engineers and technicians. So they do a very good job, and it's a very demanding operation. One something goes amiss, and there is a hell to pay. You can't afford to compromise on the security of such VVIPs. And in case of the helicopters, we had Boeing, we had Avros, and we had helicopters. Now, helicopters, we had very, totally, you can call it, of course, you can't say it was very bad, but the helicopters which were for VVIP flying were flying Prime Minister and all that. So these helicopters, one is they're underpowered because they had, a lot of equipment inside. Seats were there, big seats were there. And then there was other equipment. You had to have a toilet also, and you had a galley also where for serving the meals, etc. So it was became quite heavy, and the helicopter were underpowered, all of them. And yeah, so helicopters were all underpowered, and we had no nav aids. Can you believe it? Other than the uh, ADF, ADF also was really, locking, and because we fly at low levels, around 2,000 feet or so. So, so totally, and you will not believe, our door opening time had to be within plus minus 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. You have to reach that place, and then after land and after landing, when the door is opening, it should be plus minus 20 seconds. What are the ET was supposed to be? So it became very challenging for helicopter pilots, and we had, of course, all were selected lot, all were good, and invariably we had to maintain plus minus 20 seconds with our own, proficiency in navigation, various calculation, all everything was to be done. I'll tell you a very interesting incident. We were invited by Sri Rajiv Gandhi, then Prime Minister. We used to fly him a lot. So he invited all of us to his house, 7 Racecourse Road. So there he had, made the arrangements for a very nice evening program with some of the best delicacies for the high tea arrangements. And those times Rajiv Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi both were there. So Rajiv Gandhi just, came to us and he said, "Yeah, Rick, tell me one thing. How do you people navigate?" So we had Falli Major, Falli Major was the air chief.
Yes,
So
of course. In fact, I'm hoping to get him on the program
he
soon.
was our senior colleague. And so he told him, "Sir, we have MTDI." So this Rajiv Gandhi looked lost. He said, "Yeah, I'm also a pilot. I never heard of this very sophisticated you're talking about. What does it stand for?" So then Fali said, "Sir, it stands for Moving Thumb Display Indicator."
moving thumb.
On map, your thumb is moving forward. Okay, we have reached here, we have reached here. He said, I can't believe it. Okay, he said, I can't believe you guys fly so well and so accurately, and there's never been a late at any of the locations. So he was really sort of, very highly impressed. So that was interesting part. And then these politicians, they, for them, reaching out to their rallies, reaching out to their functions becomes very, very important. There was another occasion when we had, Rajiv Gandhi again going to Shahjahanpur. And we had taken off from this place, Safdarjung Airport. And we had 3 helicopters. And weather was so bad. There's a place called Bagpat, somewhere that area. So we could not just move. We were just moving around left, right, trying to find a gap. There's no gap. Then we thought that maybe weather might be a little clearer there. So we followed a road flying at about 50 meters. It may be like 100 feet. In that bad weather, you can hardly see and 3 helicopters. So that then when we realized that now it is no go, so we turned around. And then we came back. Rajiv Gandhi came. He said, "Yaar, dekho, this meeting is very important to me. Please do something about it." So I told him, "Sir, you have seen yourself, weather is so bad. We don't want to risk your life." He said, "Yaar, kuch to karo." So then we flew 90 degree to our, track. We went somewhere, railway line, we caught Bareilly railway line. Then we were along the Bareilly railway line. And then, of course, weather after that became a little better. Initially, we were just flying just about 50, hardly 50 feet above those railway line electricity poles, etc.
My God. Wow.
Just 50 feet. Weather was so bad. When we reached there, and Shahjahanpur, when he landed, that place, helipad itself was full of water. So we landed there, and thereafter we could hear Rajiv Gandhi telling those guys, जिंदावली मैं आपके बीच में मेरे पायलट्स के कारण उन्होंने बड़ी मदद की हमारी नहीं तो आज बड़ी मुश्किल होगी जाने की so that kind of you have VIPs though you are the pilot he knew the risk but he for them the rallies etc become very important and you can't say no to a prime minister but at the same time we were taught very firm if there's a no-go situation then we had to tell him, sorry, sir, we can't do it. And then most of the time, he accepted it. And he said, okay. And then we had Mani Shankar Iyer with us. And he was another, he was very close to Rajiv Gandhi. So he used to interact with us. And then he used to ask us, we could carry maximum, 10 person, 10 passengers. So more than that we could carry. So he'll come to us. Are we taking 11 or 12? So you have to tell him, sir, we can't carry more than 10. And you are still asking us. No, no. Rajiv, pilot is going to ask you questions. You don't. I said, sir, we can't help it. This weather we can't really proceed. So please, we can't carry so many passengers in our aircraft because it's beyond our. Because they also become very difficult for them. They are governor, they are chief minister. Everybody want to fly with the prime minister.
Yeah, right.
So then he said, "Yeah, look, we can't refuse to them. What I'll do is you refuse to them that sorry, we can't carry more than this, and we can't carry you." So all this dirty work was done by us to say no to such people. So, but it was a very interesting tenure in VIP squadron and a great satisfaction meeting those challenging demands of the VIPs, reaching them in time, and that too with safety. That is most important. With hardly any navigation aids and underpowered aircraft, helicopter. Totally underpowered. We got stuck a number of times because of that. But luckily, God was kind, God was helpful, and we had we had some skills also. We were able to manage the situation, but it was very demanding, very challenging.
So, it just kind of begs the question, which I must ask you, but if you're not comfortable answering, I'll drop it, which is, when you heard of the Me-17 crash with Gen Rawat as a VIP pilot who's also flown the Me-17, I'm sure you would have felt quite sad about it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. It was quite tragic, very unfortunate. But I had a hunch that the pilot who was flying is very highly experienced, and same goes for the co-pilot also. I think CEO and flight commander were flying, and I also have flown in that area, so I know that place. This Wellington Staff College helipad in a bowl kind of thing. So in a bowl, all high rising hills all around, and it's a bowl. And before that, there are those hills, and the weather changes are very swift in those areas. So weather changes if you and there are always pressures on you. When a VIP there's a pressure, and then sometimes pilots also become little overconfident because they have been on that route number of occasions. So that also, sort of influences their mind. So these pilots trying to, avoid the bad weather, and the helipad was so close from where they crashed. They thought that they just reach and they'll be able to some clearance and all that. Maybe they're given wrong weather inputs or they evaluated the weather input wrongly, and they got into bad weather, got disorientated, and unfortunately crashed. So now the thing is out already. The report is already out. So it was very unfortunate, very expensive. But these are the regions if you don't sort of uh, are situationally aware, and then you have to follow the your standard operating procedures. If you do not follow standard operating procedures, then you are likely to get into problem. Then we tend to, violate standard operating procedure. Sometimes because, say, I am more experienced, I have so much experience, then I want to prove myself. Then the ego comes into play. And what will other think of me? Arey yaar, you could not reach there such a short distance and this and that. And the meeting will be cancelled. Somebody had to be there. He had to address that gathering. There's a time already planned for that. All this puts pressure, and then at that point of time, pilots tend to make wrong decisions. In spite of the fact that we keep on harping on this issue. So we had a TV discussion also on this particular issue. I was representing Air Cmde India, which I told you. In our Air Cmde India, we have we are working a lot for promoting safety in the aviation operation in the country, including we interact with the military also, Army, Air Force, Navy, and we take very proactive steps to promote safety in aviation operations. Like before the commencement of any adverse weather condition like summer months, pre-monsoon months, then you have monsoon months, then you have winter months, foggy months, we send precautions which should be taken by the pilots. What are the hazards during these seasons and how the pilots can address those hazards and be very careful, situationally aware, and do not get into situation which can lead to an accident or incident. So we lay a lot of emphasis on that. Then we have also published almost 30 videos on YouTube, Aviation Safety India, on various aviation safety related subjects which relate to mainly pilots. So that is also then you carry out election flying, then there's a disaster relief flying, pilgrimage flying. So we also send the advisory or precaution to be taken during these months. Then we do our, then we also are training the civil aviation industry personnel and even military and BSF also on safety man system free of cost. Now we have conducted almost 3,000 free safety man system trainings, 3,000 for all over the country, and we are still continuing that providing free safety man system training. We also conduct other types of training also. Then we also carry out, incident analysis and what lessons we can learn from them. So that is very useful for people, and we disseminate among all the people and request them also to forward to those who are not on our mailing list. So we make concerted, sustained efforts. We got a lot of former, very highly experienced. We have on our membership like secretary, additional secretary, joint secretary from Ministry of Civil Aviation and Government of India. We have air marshal generals also who are members. Then we got there are some industrial doctors. Then we have large number of pilots, engineers, then from Airport Authority of India and all that. So we have a lot of people as our members. We have WhatsApp group also where we exchange safety related information. We in fact we even have offered to conduct free training for the DGCA personnel also, and they have made use of our opportunity offered by us for training their officials. So we are doing a lot of work on this particular safety, and we also conduct help the operator to conduct flight safety seminars, and most of our work is done free of cost. So, but still, in our country, even when you offer something free, there are not many takers. You have to really prod people. I have to request the DCA, I say, please motivate these guys to come and attend this opportunity we offer to them. So that is, but we are making our best efforts when we are reaching out to people.
I'll spread the link on the YouTube videos if you give that to me to have several thousand followers. I'll send it to them. Um,
Before visualize. Just need 7D, like your report type southeast, connection, for midway, and field selected.
can we change gears to Op Khukri now? So if you can, give us the background. What was the situation? Where were you at that time when you were detailed as the task force commander? And just walk us through that in as much detail as you can.
Okay, now Operation Khukri was the only operation in the history of United Nations which was a successful operation with hardly any casualty. Okay, we just had we lost only one guy, and he was also within 7 minutes in a hospital to be operated. So that was really sort of rare kind of operation on which now shortly they are planning to make a film also. Now uh, we had our aviation contingent in Sierra Leone, and one of our Indian company, they had moved forward to a location which was actually in the rebel held area. So that was a kind of, and that was very close to where you find the diamond mines and all that. So the what do you call the rebels, they are very sensitive to anybody coming closer to those areas. So, but then there's some kind of dialogue discussion that taken place, and finally, one of our Indian company was sent there, and along with that, there are also military observers from about 11 odd countries. So there are 13 military observers, maybe they're from 13 countries. Now, Indian military, whenever we go for UN operation, we do a lot of welfare activities, social activities, and the local population first. You have to win over that population, win over their heart and minds, so that they are friendly to you and they don't create disturbance for your relief work. So Indians are known even in Srinagar, Kashmir. Also, we have been carrying out so much of social activities and lot of relief operation, education to people and all that, sharing food, and so this exactly our people are doing there also. And our army, which was located there, was very popular with the locals because we used to help them out a lot. We used to provide them with the rations. We used to provide them with the medical assistance and whatever else assistance they needed. That was given to them. We also did some construction work these guys used to do to help them out. Basically, to provide them shelter also. So they are doing a great job. So there also, when this company is there, so they started cultivating the local people. Rebels also were very friendly with them, and they used to have, in the evening they'll come for a drink and they have a drink with our guys, and they will have their meals also, and they'll pass the time. That was kind of very great bonhomie between the rebels and Indian contingent, and of course those there are these UN observers also, the military observers. So now these guys, they over a period of time they had become very friendly. But then one fine day they decided that no, no, we will not allow your helicopter to come and land here to provide you ration, your pay, etc. Also used to be given there. The money also used to be taken by helicopters, rations and all that. They said no, we will not allow. Only you can take by road. Thereafter, the helicopter was stopped. Thereafter, the road, one of the 2IC of the battalion, he was captured along with his one or two guys on the way on the same route, which was there was a place called Daru, where we had our main location. And from Daru, this place was about some 75 odd kilometers. So this fellow was taken to great difficulty. After a long stay with I think he was taken to a neighboring country. I forget the name of that country. Then these guys, after that, they even said that road convoy also cannot bring your food, and they offered our people that way you can leave all your rations, leave your armed ammunition and your vehicles, etc., and you can leave this place. We'll let you go because we have been friendly with you, so we'll let you go, but you'll have to leave everything behind. So this is not acceptable to any a soldier to leave his. They may leave ration behind, but they'll never leave their arms, ammunition, and vehicles and etc. Fighting material, fighting equipment, they'll not leave. So our people refused. So these people surrounded them from all sides. Now, situation became very, very bad, and the force headquarters, which was in the capital town, Freetown, they're at a loss as to what to do. Now, every passing day, we are getting supplies were depleting all their rations, and a stage came when they come down on taking maybe one meal a day or something like that. Situation became quite grim, but that nobody wants to take a risk, and UN was really not interested. They said the Indians are there, so if they want to undertake some operation, they can go ahead, but they were not really sort of forthcoming in providing some kind of So, and we had General Jetli, he was our force commander. So he took a lot of initiative, a lot of steps. He got all of us together. He called us, he called Brigadier Mehta, he was the sector commander there of that area. And then he made plans to extricate those people because situation became very difficult, very complicated. And finally, the permission was obtained from our Ministry of Defense and from the Army headquarters. And finally, we are given go ahead that you can go ahead and try to rescue. So we now the plan was to we had also the commandos who had come from India. So they're also their support we dropped and for the operations, and we also had help from the this one British Royal Air Force. They had provided one aircraft, C-130. That was actually their basically to guide their helicopters.
Okay. What was your what aircraft did you have in your detachments?
We had Mi-8 and Chetak,
Okay.
and Mi-24, Mi-25,
Me 25.
35,
Me 35. Okay.
Mi-35. Yeah. So the by 15th we had positioned ourselves at this place called Daru, and from there next morning we were supposed to launch. So we are supposed to carry also some troops, arms, ammunition, etc. And when he got it was supposed to be launched around 4 o'clock. So when we were supposed to launch that operation, before that the Royal Air Force C-130 took off. So they had state of the art navies, radars, and airborne guidance and control system. So along with that, there this Chinook also took off, and Chinook was guided by these by this C-130 Hercules, and they went through the weather because of their radars and because the overhead this aircraft was flying, and he was guiding which side whether is better, which side is not, and all that. So and Chinook also is a very capable helicopter,
Right.
very good helicopter. So they had taken off and they reached. We also took off after they had taken off. We took the weather, we checked weather, it was quite bad. It was raining. But then it was an operation, so we had to take some amount of risk. So we had all again very top-notch pilots. So we had Nunkun, Negi, and this fellow Dayasagar, calling Dayasagar and all that. We had good lot of pilots. So 3 Mi-8s was supposed to take off, and either. So I went and saw off. When the aircraft had started up, I went to each aircraft, met all the crew members inside the aircraft, wished them all the best, and I was very nervous. I was in such bad weather and an enemy territory, and that terrain was all trees, general trees you find there, 100 to 150 feet tall trees, and it's a hilly, high ground terrain, and raining, and there rains a hell of a lot. It's very, and there are hardly any, places where you can put down your helicopter because all forested terrain. So these guys took off. They flew for about 10 minutes. I was monitoring on ground, and they're facing very bad weather. They could not see each other. They couldn't see anything. So then finally, I told them, please return, come back, and they came back safely. I was crossing my fingers because in such condition, 3 helicopters in formation and such bad weather, and then they're flying hardly at about 200 feet total, maybe 50 feet above the tree level,
Goodness, wow.
and zero visibility conditions. So they came back, landed, and then we are waiting for the weather to clear up, get the report. So this finally, when the weather cleared up, we again launched our aircraft, and this time they were able to make it. Now over there also, our company which are located there, we took this rebelled by surprise. They never expected this kind of operations. So they were relaxing, enjoying their sleep, and the other time landing. By that time, but they surrounded our people from all around. But our guys were quite brave, very crazy people, and these para commandos also landed. Along with that, finally they were able to break through, and we had also put in troops, additional troops, armed ammunition, some rations. So along with that, now there are the gunfire fighting for some time, and then our troops with their vehicles and all that, they start moving on the road. There's a Kacha track, there's a Kacha road, almost 75 kilometers. There's all along Kacha, and it was a kind of, a raised ground where they constructed that. So both sides there are very dense forest, and this was in between, which was about hardly about say 10 feet wide, and about 5 6 feet above the ground. So they laid, and they rained so much. So these guys, when they came to, they had also good communication system and all that. So when our people broke out, then they told them that by you, their own people who were, placed alongside the road, that in case they can guys break out, you can always take them on. So these guys got the road dug up. They dug up the road, and they cut tall trees and put them en route so that these guys just can't, reach those obstacles. So, but with the we are after that we had this uh, helicopters. Next day weather was, after that weather has improved same day, and the or we could keep a helicopter throughout available in that area. One helicopter to come and refuel and carry on, and the other helicopter will come after that. So we had provided a kind of air umbrella to our troops. So over there also, when they created that breach on the road, so our helicopter landed in such difficult place where you just can't believe, in between trees surrounded all around. I don't know how they managed it. They landed there, picked up their troops, moved them further, and of course we have also carried some bridges also, these army bridges. So with the help of, so helicopters were landing troops, taking troops from there, and moving them further. Then it was a little slow movement. So night fell and night time we could not fly. So our people stayed en route at a location over the night. The troops which are there, our troops. So they stayed there. Thereafter, next day when he went, again when they started moving, so the rebels kept on firing, kept on chasing our troops. But with the helicopter, we kept on moving them forward. Their vehicles also kept on moving. Some kind of also were made. And now we are just about, say, around less than 10 kilometers distance. So there, those guys were, most of them were drugged, these rebels. They were always under the influence of drugs. So this guy suddenly emerged from the forest, and he fired a rocket propelled grenade, RPG,
RPG.
on one of our one tonner. Yeah, on our one tonner. And in one tonner there was I think, Subedar and a driver. So this rocket went through the door, and they scrapped the stomach of both these people. I think this the driver I think died, and Subedar, he was taken to the hospital, or maybe the driver was taken to the hospital. One of them died there only. And then our helicopter were flying overhead. There was some of gunfire going on. But now the rebels were desperate. So in that gunfire only, Chetak helicopter landed there. It was being called Babu. That time he landed there, picked up his casualty, and within 7 minutes he was in the hospital on the operation table. So that kind of air umbrella we had created, and very swift operation. And thereafter, of course, We reached our location safe. And so only there was one casualty. Well, that was on the last 10 kilometers or so to go. Other than that, it was a very successful operation. And of course, before the operation, the UN refused to give any help. So because luckily we had force commander who was General Jetli, so he interacted with these, some Kenyans were there, some Nigerians were there. I think it was Kenyan, not Nigerian.
Kenyans are
So
there.
they were providing us, some kind of backup at our real location if the rebels come. Also, we got information that large number of the rebels, about 250 odd of them, they are gathered at a location and they are going to come and attack our positions.
In Daru.
Now, this fellow, Brigadier Mehta, came to me and he said, "Yeah, please do something about it." I just said, "You tell us, and we will definitely do it." So we had Me 35s. So we launched Me 35 after we got the approval. And then Me 35 went, and in one go, these guys also were surrounded by some civilians. So they always used to intermingle with civilians, the rebels. So, but these guys have been given the target. These guys reached within, say, about 7, 8 minutes and fired rockets at them and killed most of the rebels. Along with that, couple of civilians also were killed, which we did not know. We are told they are all rebels. Okay. And civilians actually had no business to be with the rebels. So thereafter, of course, there are some UN inquiry also. Human rights always come into picture, but there are no problem. It was not really sort of followed up because it was in the fog of the war, which we had taken all the decision in the defense of our troops, and they are definitely rebelled. So collateral damage can take place. That is so that was after we landed. So it became a very major success of the United Nations. Now suddenly the United Nations now took over the charge and they started sort of claiming it was their operation. Actually, operation was purely Indian, and Indian also because we had our own troops
Our
out
own
there,
troops to rescue,
and
right?
Indian. Yeah, we had rescued that. So thereafter, we are flooded with a lot of people for interviews and all TVs, BBC, New York, Japan, various countries, UK. So it used to be quite hectic. Indians also went there. So that was it was the as I told you, it was the only UN operation which was successful operation. UN operations are generally not successful because most of the countries there they don't take orders from the force commander. First, any orders are given to them, they will contact their own country and they'll ask them, "We have been asked to do this. Shall we do this?" If the country says, "Sorry, you can't do it," don't do it, so they don't do it. But in our case, also, that's why I didn't get much help from the UN. But after that, of course, UN took the credit, and our force commander was called in the UN, I think, United Nations, and given a standing ovation. So that was our, you know, stock went very high. Everybody looked up to Indians.
Individual before you visualize. Just need 7D, like your report time southeast, you can edge for midway, and you will select it.
Then, before that also we had done some fantastic, work. One of our helicopter was fired, at some one place. These were, I think, Kenyan troops. They were surrounded by the rebels, and Kanima or some place was there. I don't remember the name. So they are surrounded by the these rebels, and they had also poisoned the wells so that they can't fetch water. Also.
Oh my God.
It was so bad. So with a lot of discussion, a lot of interaction. So finally, it was decided that we can supply them some ration and also there were these military observers. So the military observers, we actually are supposed to rescue those military observers. They had agreed to release those military observers, the rebels. All permission was given. Now our helicopter landed there. When they landed there, so all around they could see machine guns facing toward them. That was totally rebel held area. Okay. And they had taken almost their weapons also for these Kenyan troops. So these guys landed from there. Then we offloaded those, whatever rations and other things were taken. And then suddenly now, because those people who were supposed to be evacuated, all firing was going. Firing started by the rebels. And these guys, the military observers, they started running towards the helicopter, just trying to get into it. And there was a total stampede, with great difficulty. And the moment door was closed, our helicopter took off, and these guys were firing at the helicopter. So we suffered some bullet hits, and the helicopter developed serious vibrations. And then the rebel realized that this helicopter going to crash because they already fired. They could see the smoke coming, and so they're going to crash. And so they had got into their vehicle and they're chasing the helicopter. So the helicopter landed about, I think, 20, 30 kilometers away. And there we had, luckily, the Wing Commander Negi was flying in a helicopter. He had heard this call. So he immediately reached that place where our helicopter force landed because he had no choice. Helicopter was not in control. So he landed there, picked up all the crew members, picked up all the passengers, all the foreign, those military observers, and we had no choice but to leave the helicopter. So now we came back. We came back, and we are very sad that our helicopter has been, left behind, but there's no choice. So thereafter, we had approached Army headquarters and Ministry of Defense that we must try to get this helicopter. Now we used to go and recce that area. These rebels, we could see them. They'd already used to be guarding the helicopter, and they were inside the helicopter. They had to come out from the helicopter inside. They were staying there inside the helicopter.
Okay. Wow.
So we kept on surveying. Whenever we used to go, we used to feel very bad. Our helicopter is parked there, and we are not able to do anything. It was so now we had asked for then that time Mr. George Fernandez, Defense Minister. He had visited that place. So a presentation was given to him that how we can rescue this helicopter. So he said, "No, we don't want to suffer any casualties. Leave the helicopter, forget about it." So then, because we are fearing casualties, and definitely casualties would have been there. So, but we are feeling very upset. So finally, a day came when, after about 3.5 months, permission came that we can, recover that helicopter. And by then, we had these Russian helicopters also. They had also joined us as part of United Nations mission. They also had Me-25. So they had come there. So we finally decided, we had carried out a lot of practice on ground, trying to prepare for this rescue operation. How we are going to, we had also carried out practice drill for, we are told that the tip of the rotor blade had bullet holes. So we said we will cut these tips, all the tips will cut about a foot of the rotor from all around, and then we fly the helicopter. Yeah. So we need to practice it. By now, our Indian commandos also had come. So we had to practice on some crash helicopter were there. So we had to practice on their rotor blades. They used to tie some kind of explosives on the rotor blade, how they are going to cut it. And all these practice, we are all prepared, getting to go. And finally, we decide to launch the operation to recover that helicopter. And the rebels ran away. So we could not see the helicopter. It was all around the helicopter itself. All around the helicopter, there was these shrubs and vegetation, almost 50, 60 feet high. And it was in a marshy area. It was in a marshy area, and there's a half of the tires were sunk inside the water. Our people landed there. They took stock of the situation. We had carried some fuel also, and our maintenance staff. And you'll not believe they did such a fantastic. The batteries also we had taken. Everything we had taken.
Amazing. Wow.
And these guys had removed most of the instruments from the helicopter. Because they thought there was something like watch kind of thing. So they removed it. They had opened the engine, thinking that there might be some precious metals. So they wanted to remove it. And all over they had written RUF, that uh, Rebel United
United
Front,
Front. Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. So we have to call them RUF. So now these, so we quickly checked the helicopter rotors, changed the tips, and we refueled it with whatever fuel we had taken, limited fuel, changed the batteries. And during this period, our gunships were hovering on top, trying to look for the any rebels if they interfere with our operations. And finally, this helicopter took off. It was almost evening time, and you will not believe, after 145 days, staying in those conditions have been, interfered with so much. Have been, you will not believe the helicopter started in first start.
Oh, my goodness.
That Russian and that a very rugged machines. In first start it started, and our pilot took off. It did not give much problem. So I was very tense and worried. I was flying in another helicopter, and then I escorted them to reach back to our place. So Wing Commander Negi and I think Squadron Leader Dayasagar, they flew that helicopter. It was the Dayasagar helicopter which had, and we went, reached there, landed, and thereafter when the United Nations headquarters learned about it, they said, we don't believe. So they said, please send us the photographs. So I sent the photograph of the helicopter. So they said, how can this helicopter fly? There's already so many areas which are, sort of split open and all that. They said, we don't believe it. I said, you come over here, please. So they came to visit the helicopter. And after seeing the helicopter also, the engine was still warm. After seeing the helicopter also, they won't believe it. I said, then I told him, this is the helicopter. We counted. I said, this was the fourth helicopter which was shot down. All now you can see all the four helicopters. We can't get any helicopter from anywhere. And thereafter, of course, it became a world news. And United Nations, in any case, that time itself, our stock was very, very high. Everybody respected, Indian. If Indian can do anything, they used to say, Indian aviation contingent hai to mumkin hai. That kind of, thing.
Right.
And then it is something very rare. We had outstanding our maintenance crew. We had one of the aircraft, helicopter, whose main gearbox had serious problem. So we had to force land. And now that helicopter, you can't take it out because you have to, without that gearbox unserviceable, you can't fly it out. So we had taken a gearbox from India. But now how to carry out the change? Their rebels are just next door. Rebels are watching you, they're firing it. So, and there are no, you require cranes. Your main gearbox is very heavy, almost 700 kg or so weight. Massive thing. Now that had to be carried, chained, and you'll not believe, without any cranes, just through innovations. Our engineer, technician, they did a fantastic job, and they changed the gearbox, made the aircraft serviceable, and we flew it out of that place. So it gave quite a sort of feeling of great happiness when we were able to bring all our helicopters back to India. In those, so that was a quite a matter of great satisfaction for us. It was a very challenging operation over there, and things were pretty bad. We had also we were forced to evacuate once from our location, leaving everything behind because we had a report that rebels are approaching and they are going to attack us. There are the Jordanian battalion there, then there was the Indian battalion. So now, when they heard about all this, rebels are coming in force, and what rebels used to do, they had to keep women and children in front of them
Oh,
so that you can't fire at them. Okay, so they had to keep women and children in front of them. They had to mingle in the civil crowd, and whenever they got the opportunity, they'll fire. They had to fire at us. So they too also come with all kind of drum beat and all that. So we could hear the drum beat in a distance, and then we came to know that everybody was evacuating that areas. Our army company was there. That Indian Army company withdrew from there, went to Freetown, and then there was the Jordanian. They also ran away from there, all fearing the rebels. Now we are the only people left, and Air Force. We fight from the air, not on ground. So we are not really competent enough, though we to prepare ourselves. We are quite upset on this. And finally, we said, yeah, we'll also have to evacuate from here because we, it will be a piece of cake for the rebels to take on us. We had very limited, armed ammunition, so we can't really fight them. So then we filled everybody in the helicopters, all the and carried our minimum. I said, you wire one dress change over your passport and money, that's everything you can because you can't. We could not carry. So we are almost under 40, 50 people. So we could not carry in so many helicopters. So at night time, we took off from there when we heard the rebels very close. Then the time all of us took off. It was dark night, and we are going to another this thing. What do you call airfield? And that airfield also had no lights, nothing, no aids, and it's all sea all around. We had to fly over the sea, so there are no lights, nothing. So the night, all 8 helicopters of ours, we went and we somehow we managed to land there. Oh, throughout the night, we were there, and we had informed our families also. We had already planned that we will leave this. We had to leave this place because that airfield also was threatened by the rebels. So I said they might come anytime now. So we are going to get into serious problems. So fortunately for us, and we had already planned. So we asked for the fuel. So there are no fuel. Now fuel, we had to ask somebody to come. This guy was some Nigerian and some other local people. So they refused to come because they're also scared. So we are stranded there without fuel, without any protection from anywhere. And the rebels, you could hear their firing all around. And so that was quite a challenge. So we had told our family, that, "Bhai, you might get some news in our TV, etc. tomorrow, but we are safe. Don't worry, we are safe." So that was a very challenging operation.
amazing. Thank you so much, sir, for this in a very detailed description. I could just feel the tension there, the way you described it. It was really quite amazing.
Yeah, tension was always there. We couldn't sleep. There were nights when we whole night we are just watching shelling going on distance, lights. You could see the shell exploding. So every day there was a threat. Once we were facing an attack, our hospital people, Indian were manning a hospital. They attacked. The rebels came very close to attacking them. So it was never a dull moment there. Every day there was some challenge or the other. So many things happening every day, very risky, very challenging environments, and inhospitable terrain. What kind of weather? Their weather rains a hell of a lot, and peals of thunder. If you hear that, it was so deadly. So weather was our biggest enemy. But hats off to our pilots, engineers, and all that. Pilots flew safely, and we had our people had done a really great job. I think 4 or 5 of them got Vayu Sena medal, and I got Youth Sena medal. So that was a very interesting operation, and the film is going to be made on this. So hopefully you will be able to see that film. So many things you have forgotten, name of places and other details. So you can't remember after so many years.
Great. Now I see there's a book that was written by later Major General Rajpal Punia, I think is his name, on Op Khukri. Yeah,
Of Khukri.
on Khukri.
So the General Jetli also has written a book which is getting released, and General Jetli's book is quite authentic and covers all the details. And I think within a month or so it will be released. So you'll have opportunity to see the details through that book.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your service, and thank you so much for the time that you've taken today, almost an hour and a half, to explain all your experiences, all of which have been really fascinating in so much detail. So, really grateful to you.
Thank you, Ganapati. You are doing a wonderful job. Highly appreciated.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you will meet with great success.
Thank you, sir.
And anytime you can give us any service, please feel free to interact with us. We'll be happy to
Certainly, sir.
be of any use.
Certainly, sir.
Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
God bless.
Individual to Fort Vigilant. Just need 70, like your report IP Southeast, connection for midway, and you'll select it.
Well, folks, that's all we have time for this week. Join us again next week. In the meantime, sign up for updates at blueskiespodcast.com. There you'll find links to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also write to us with your comments, questions, suggestions, and feedback from the website or to blueskies@prganapati.com. Subscribe to the podcast on any podcasting platform such as Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and even on YouTube. If you like what you heard, share it with your friends, give us a rating in your favorite podcasting app, and write us a review. It will help other people find us. I want to give my thanks to Saurav Chordia for our logo and Prithvik for the music. I want to reiterate that all the views expressed here are personal, and this podcast has not been approved by or reviewed by the Air Force, Ministry of Defense, or any branch of the government. In the meantime, stay safe and Jai Hind.